UnCanadian, the Justification Part 1. It was a little after 9 o'clock the next morning when I got the call. Just the start of office hours, and there was a woman on the other end, her voice neutral, calm. Nothing in her tone gave me any warning, no hint that something was off. She told me there was a follow-up meeting scheduled at the hospital that I needed to attend. Going back there, with yesterday still so fresh in everyone's minds, what would they all think? Would they judge me? Dread coiled in my gut, thick and sluggish like something alive, something with claws. My throat tightened, the air suddenly too thin, as if the room had shrunk around me. The hospital loomed ahead, its automatic doors yawning open like a silent mouth, ready to swallow me whole. Inside, I could feel the weight of their eyes before I even saw them, their gazes pressing down like stones piled onto my chest, one by one, until I could barely breathe. I didn't even make it past the lobby before it hit me. The memory. The hospital tech from the day before, her shrill, over-the-top cheerfulness that made my skin crawl. She'd tried so hard to make everything feel light, bright, but the tension between James and me had crackled in the air like static. James didn't just speak, he carved. Every word was a precision strike, deliberate and sharp, like he knew exactly where to cut. His words hadn't just wounded, they'd flayed, peeling back skin, layer by layer. Even the air felt like salt, and the hospital's fluorescent lights sliced through like scalpels, harsh and unrelenting. I saw it again in my mind, his eyes locking onto her, that manic energy swirling behind them like a storm he could no longer hold back. Then his focus snapped, sharp, sudden, right back to her. The young hospital tech, the real target all along. She was frozen, shoulders hunched, hands clasped in front of her like a child caught doing something wrong. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She had no idea what she was up against. And I just stood there. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My voice had vanished, like I'd been gutted too. He raised his voice, chest puffed out, projecting like he was performing to the back row of a theater. His words echoed down the hospital hallway, loud enough for everyone to hear, because that was the point. "You need to hear this," James said, voice slicing through the quiet like a blade. "Everyone needs to hear how fucking horrible that woman is at her job." He wasn't just angry, he was performing his anger, punctuating each word like a final verdict. "Never again," he scolded, each syllable crisp, deliberate, cruel. "Thank God all you have to do is this one small, insignificant task." He spit the words like venom. "Thank God your incompetence will never kill someone. Thank God you'll never have a job of real medical importance." The memory gripped me like an icy hand around my chest, and I could feel my heart sinking all over again. How quickly everything had gone wrong, how easily he tore her down, someone just doing her job. And yet, in that moment, all I could think about was how much I had been a part of it, how much I had stood by and let it happen. I had my doubts, but this wasn't about me. It was about my baby. I couldn't let my fears keep me from showing up. Skipping it wasn't an option, even though I wasn't sure I could handle another scene like the one yesterday. I had to go. That was my priority, even if it felt like everything else was slowly falling apart around me. I didn't want a repeat of what happened yesterday. I wasn't sure I could take another scene like that. So I left the apartment quietly, no grand escape or secret planning. I just grabbed my purse, my keys, and locked the door behind me. James? He was still at the piano, completely lost in his world, tapping away at the keys as always. He didn't even notice as I slipped out. Didn't even look up when I closed the door. He had won in the end. His tantrum had gotten him exactly what he wanted. The injustice he'd felt had righted itself, and now there he was, acting as though I didn't exist, as though all that mattered was his piano. It was always like this. Him, throwing his fits, getting everything he wanted, while I was just exhausted, pregnant and drained from carrying him, physically, emotionally, mentally, and he didn't even see it. Maybe he never had. I decided to act like nothing had happened the day before. People overreact all the time, right? I shouldn't bring it up unless someone else does. Who needs to stir things up? People forget things all the time. James's little outburst from yesterday was probably already out of his mind, like it was nothing. It was understandable, really. James liked to be dramatic sometimes. He's always been the type to crave attention, like he's on stage in front of a crowd. That's just part of who he is. He's used to it. Besides, it was just a misunderstanding. Anyone could have had that kind of moment. No harm done. But, okay. Yeah, this was the first time James had done something like that in public. He's had his rough patches, sure. He's never been great at keeping a job, but he's always able to get one. Maybe he's had those little episodes when I wasn't around, but I can't say for sure. Anyway, this was the first time I had to explain his behavior to someone else. I just had to talk about it. Maybe I was just trying to make sense of it, or explain it away. It's not like this kind of thing happens often. Really, it's nothing. Just a blip. It wasn't like I was trying to convince her of anything. It's just how things are, right? A brief moment in the grand scheme of things. She probably wouldn't even think twice about it. The thing about James, well, it wasn't simple. You couldn't just sum him up in a few words. It took a lot of explaining. James is a musical genius, you know. He spends hours at the piano, completely lost in it. That kind of focus, dedication, it doesn't leave much room for softer skills, like small talk, like knowing the right thing to say to a stranger. You had to learn his language, the little nods and grunts, the way he communicates without really saying anything at all. Most of his quirks? Well, they're a lesson in patience, tolerance. It takes a certain kind of person to be married to someone like that. I'd say it with a laugh, like it was easy, like it was second nature to me. I'd make it look effortless. But the truth? That's not always how it is. The hospital tech? She'd get it, right? If I explained it the right way, it would make sense to her. She just needed to hear it from someone who understood. She was young, probably mid to late 20s, but still hovering on the edge of adolescence, not quite weighed down by the real responsibilities of life. A girl like that? She wasn't thinking about things like starting a family. She wasn't worrying about expenses or car seats or the price of formula. Maybe she still cared more about her phone bill than the cost of diapers. But one day, when the time came, when she had kids of her own, then she'd understand, right? I stepped off the elevator, my heels clicking against the white ceramic tiles as I made my way down the hall to the reception desk. Yesterday, this place had been buzzing, crowded with people, filled with excitement. But now, it was quiet. Too quiet. It was obvious I was the only one scheduled. I gave a small, hesitant smile as I handed over my health card, watching as the receptionist swiped it without so much as a glance in my direction. She barely acknowledged me, too focused on whatever was on her screen. No one said a word about yesterday. No sideways looks, no hushed whispers. Just business as usual. I let out a slow breath. Maybe this wouldn't be as bad as I thought. Following the colored lines on the floor, I found the room they directed me to. A small, empty space with nothing but a desk and 2 chairs. Empty except for the silence. And then I saw her. The hospital tech from yesterday. But she was different now. The brightness had drained out of her like the last flickering bulb in an empty hallway. Her eyes, rimmed red, looked at me with something unreadable, something hollow. Like she'd seen something she couldn't unsee and now carried the weight of it in her bones. The bubbly energy, the forced cheerfulness, it was gone. Instead, she looked tired, like someone who had been given a task she didn't want, but had no choice but to see through. Her shoulders slumped as she walked in, a folder clutched tightly in her hands, her movements slower, more careful. Her hair was pulled back, clipped neatly away from her face. No frills, no brightness, just simple, serious. She looked older somehow, and when she finally met my eyes, there was something else there, something heavy. I could see it right away, the telltale signs of someone who had cried herself to sleep. Her eyes were swollen and red, and there was a box of tissues sitting beside her on the table. I sat across from her at the plain, impersonal desk, my hands resting in my lap as I tried to steady myself. Whatever this was, whatever she had to say, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it. She looked up as I sat down and gave me a small, brave smile. A sad one. "Thank you," she said softly. "Thank you for coming." I smiled back, warm and reassuring, feeling a flicker of relief. Yesterday, for a brief moment, I thought we had understood each other, like we had shared something. Maybe that connection was still there. Maybe I could bring it back. Maybe she'd let me reframe it, reshape it. "What about you?" she asked. "Are you okay after what happened yesterday?" "Oh, me?" I blinked, caught off guard that she would ask about me. I shrugged it off. "I'm fine. James is much better now." I waved a hand, brushing it all away like it was nothing. It was a relief, honestly, that she cared enough to ask. And as I spoke, I could feel it, something shifting between us, a connection. And if she could see that, if she could understand where I was coming from, then maybe she'd understand the rest too. Maybe, just maybe, she'd see my side. I could feel it, something shifting, a little opening. She was listening, actually listening. I just had to remind her of who I was. The same friendly woman from yesterday, the one who always looked on the bright side. So I gave her the most reasonable explanation I could. James skipped breakfast, and you know how that goes. His blood sugar dipped. He was already distracted before we left, caught up in his own thoughts, and I had to rush him out the door. He doesn't handle that well, and if he doesn't sleep enough, he wakes up cranky. It's just how he is. She didn't even blink. "Cranky?" she repeated, her voice flat. "Your husband seemed like a full-grown adult male with no need for a diaper change." I let out a small laugh, light, easy, like it was nothing, like I was completely unbothered. I leaned in just a little, my voice warm, friendly, or as you said yesterday, grumpy. I tried to make it sound playful, like a joke between us, but it felt hollow in my own ears. "James gets overwhelmed, and sometimes it spills out. It doesn't mean he's cruel. It just means he's human. He didn't mean to snap like that." I tilted my head, giving her a small, knowing smile. "That's just how he is. I mean, you know how some people get when they're overtired or overstimulated? It's like that." I shrugged lightly, softening my tone. He doesn't always have the right way to express it. He tries, but sometimes it comes out wrong." I paused, just for a second, just long enough to almost hear how it sounded, then pushed past it. "It was just bad timing that you were the one standing there when it did." I nodded so much my neck ached, like one of those stupid bobbleheads on a car dashboard. Maybe if I agreed enough, if I showed her I understood, she'd start to believe me. Please, believe me. But she didn't. She kept her eyes on the paperwork in her hands, shaking her head, her voice tight, trembling like she was about to cry all over again. "That wasn't just bad timing," she said. "He berated me, in front of my coworkers. He tried to shame me, humiliate me, and for what? What did I do to deserve that?" She shrugged. "I cried about it, sure. But I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen." I hesitated. She was waiting for me to say something. "But you called him Mr. Grumpy." The words came out too fast, too sharp, almost an accusation. "You knew." The tech's eyes flickered, just a blink, but I caught it. I heard my own voice then, the edge in it, too pointed, too accusing. I smiled, softening my tone, trying to draw her back in. "Do you remember what you said when you first saw him yesterday?" I paused, keeping my voice light. "You called him Mr. Grumpy." I gave her a moment to sit with it. "You must have sensed he was in a bad mood even then." "A bad mood?" she repeated, her voice sharper now. Was that my crime? Noticing, acknowledging it? I was doing my job, and I do it well, despite your husband's opinion. That's not why he did it, and you know it." She took a slow breath, steadying herself. "I'd like an answer, because I have a right to know, but I won't put you on the spot like that. I won't make you answer for him. Her gaze flickered toward the empty chair beside me. It's unfortunate he didn't have the guts to show up today. That says a lot about who he is. I swallowed. He didn't come because he's not used to these early morning appointments, I explained, trying to keep my voice light, reasonable. I already told you he was stressed. He hadn't eaten. It was just bad timing. But even as I spoke, I could feel it, how thin the excuse was, how little weight it carried. I'd said it so many times, I almost believed it. Almost. But the excuse felt hollow. She glanced at the clock, then back at me, eyes narrowing just slightly. It's almost noon, she said, like that meant more than just the time. I let out a deep, exasperated sigh and dropped my head, partly in defeat, partly to hide my frustration. This girl wasn't listening to me. Yes, James had overreacted, but she would never understand what I knew. I was all in. This deep. I had put so much into this, sacrificed so much of my own life. No one understood. Except one person. You see it too, don't you? You must. Tell me you do. Tell me this isn't all in my head. If you don't, if no one does, then what am I left with? A ghost of something that was never real? A life built on smoke? You see it. You have to see it. Why are you still here? You believe in love, right? You believe in what we had, what he and I were. You must. Please, please tell me you do. Because without someone who sees me, who sees what this was, I don't know how much longer I can hold on. I need you to say it. I need to hear that I'm not the only one who still believes in him and me. I can't do this alone. If you won't say it, if you can't say it, then I might lose myself. You wouldn't want that, would you? You wouldn't want me to disappear? Would you?